The Nikki Glaser Podcast. The Nikki Glaser Podcast.
Here's Nikki.
Hello, here I am. Welcome to the show. It's Nikki Glaser Podcast. Starting off having to respond to a text urgently. Let's set the stage. Noah's here. Sean's here. Brian's here. I just have to tell Chris that he's talking to my money guy, and he just said, can you please let him know that he can tell me the state of your finances? You have full permission to tell Chris anything about my money. Okay. I have to just send that.
Yeah.
Tell him it's gay, tell him it's green, tell him it's whatever. Whatever.
Finances and couples, that's like a topic that's hard to talk about, like death and sex.
Yeah, it is. I guess. I just don't. Yeah. I guess it is. But I'm just like I don't care what people. I just don't really have any secrets. So I don't.
But it's also
like,
big. Like it just shows commitment. Like I remember when Avi and I like combined our finances. You know, our bank accounts or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we still have our separate ones.
But how do you do that?
Together.
Like, how do you determine what's separate and what's joined?
Well, we just went to the bank and opened a joint one, and then every month we put the same amount of money into it to cover our expenses.
So, like, if you're getting your hair done, where do you pull that from?
Oh, that's my money. That's Noah's money.
Well, then what if you're buying a new hair dryer for your home that you're going to mostly use?
Avi has no hair, so that's a Noah expense.
But
what other
like,
hair
isn't that
things
also
might you buy that?
Okay? What if you're buying a snack that only you eat, like Utz's, like hot
groceries is
fire
combined.
Chips? Yeah,
combined. Even if it's for
even
me.
if it's a snack that you want.
Yeah, the Utz butts.
Yeah, Utz butts. I love those.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, it's how do you not like if you it's I don't know how anyone does it. It is fucked up.
It's different for
everyone. What are you doing,
everyone.
Noah? Just either put it all together or keep it separate. Stop this half-assing it.
No, that's nice because then you can be like, I'm buying this for myself, and you don't get to weigh in on what I spend my money on because I'm using my own thing on this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, it's very Destiny's Child of you. Too.
Oh,
like
I'm gonna make them that song.
Yeah, I think in my head I'm like, what was Bills about?
Oh, Bills, yes, Bills. That
Wait, that's
telephone
Destiny's Child?
bill.
Oh,
Yeah,
that was DLC.
I'm terrified of being a bugaboo. That is like my least.
What about a scrub?
Yeah,
I don't want no scrubs.
Unfortunately, I know I'm a scrub.
Yeah, I could see you.
You're hanging out the passenger side of your best friend's ride.
Trying to holler. I have separate bank accounts with my wife, and the way we handle.
Yeah, how do you do like combine
how do you
things?
guys do it?
We just pay for certain bills individually. Like I have Allie's cell phone on my cell phone contract or whatever, and she pays for health insurance because I'm on her health insurance. So it's like we just have like different responsibilities that we take care of.
Okay.
But we don't have a joint. I tried to get a safe deposit box at the bank the other day so we can put our important valuables in there. And I go in there and I go, can I get a safe deposit box? And they said,
isn't a safety deposit box?
Oh, is it?
Guys?
A
safe deposit box?
I thought it was a safe deposit box.
I thought it was a safety
because it's in a safe.
It's in a safe,
It's
and it's
safe.
like a deposit box. Yeah.
What the fuck?
I
Okay,
want a
sorry.
safe
Go on.
Deposit.
Now,
Well, the
did
story
they
is not.
Did they tell you that it's no longer the 1930s? Why are you doing it?
But the way he said it was, he's like, we don't have those, and we won't have them for a long time.
Well, didn't they burn? Didn't people lose stuff in the fire?
Yeah, I would be worried if, like, not only do you have to grab your valuables from your house in a fire, you have to then go down to the post office.
I guess
or
it is
wherever
wise to put your safe deposit box in a bank that's kind of far away from your house in case the whole
safe
town
deposit
burns.
box is the weirdest thing I've ever heard. I feel like I feel like this is Mandela effect. Like I've never heard anyone call it a safe deposit. It's always been safety.
I think
not
it's
crazy.
Both.
Oh, thank God.
Because both are showing up on Google.
This is Nike
It's a
logo
regional
all
thing.
over again. Okay.
It's a regional thing. Yeah.
Okay,
I thought
good.
it was.
Pop,
I thought
soda.
this whole time I thought it was Destiny's Children.
It should be. Wait, what? They should. There's 3 of them.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make any sense.
Or four. There were four.
There were four. One really got left out. The other two only mildly got left out.
Yeah.
Feels like in every great band, there's always one person who got left out early on. That happened to
Best.
the Beatles. Yeah, Pete Best. Happened to me and Hoobastank.
That would be amazing.
I was the fourth. I was the stank.
Wait, so what made you what valuables do you have to go put in this thing? I don't even understand what you would put in.
Recently, my brother
safe deposit box
came to me and he said, "I have your birth certificate, your actual birth certificate." And I don't know why he had it, but he had it and he mailed it to me. And I was like, I'm not going to. That is so valuable because it's your original.
No,
birth
it isn't
certificate.
because you didn't even know it existed until he called you. So
but then I had
just
to
go
use
back
it.
to a life without it.
I had to use it for
through
something.
the mail.
I forgot what I had to use it for, but there was a thing I think it was setting up a payment thing where they were like, my passport was expired, so I couldn't use my passport.
Okay,
the only other thing is your birth certificate.
Okay.
What kind of psychopath still has their birth certificate?
Yeah, I don't know where mine is.
I don't
or a
have
social
mine.
security card, that limp little piece of paper.
Yeah.
Literally every driver who gives me their card has a more sturdy card than the social security card.
Yeah.
Which is made with Egyptian
it's flimsy
papyrus.
paper. And you can
and you're
pull
not allowed
perforated edges that you pull off.
Terrible.
I laminated my social security card when I was 17, and I got yelled at trying to get a passport saying that this is illegal to laminate. I'm like,
it's illegal to protect it. We want you to lose this and damage it by the time you have to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here I am just trying to sell it to a Malaysian teenager.
God, laminating was so fun. I can't believe 17-year-old Sean laminated something.
My mom had a laminator and I was going ham on it.
Yeah, you were looking for anything.
What were you doing at 17, Sean? What were you like?
Oh, I was drinking, smoking, and laminating.
Did you, when you were in high school, did you hang out with nerds? Did you play sports at all? What was going on?
I played sports and I was in an emo band, which I've talked about on this before. Yeah,
what did you play again?
I played baseball and bass
and baseball.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And truly just a pathetic person. But someone pointed out recently that I was semi-popular in high school, and it just it redefined everything. It changed how I viewed myself in high school.
I actually, Sean, ran into a woman this weekend at the Vanity Fair party who came up to me and said that she saw us both in Cabo, her and her husband. And she was the one that went up to you afterwards and was like, I went to the same high school as you. And she disclosed to me that she was like, and it was really awkward because we both suffered so much trauma at that school being beat. Is that true?
Whoa.
Oh, no. Well, this was the woman who came up and she was like, I went to that high school. And then I was like, oh, what year did you graduate? And she was like, 1989. And I was like, what?
And she looked so young. Yes.
Yes.
I froze when she said that because I was like, I remember Sean telling me something about how either she looked too old or too young. And I just didn't want to say anything. So I was like, oh, that's crazy. Even though I knew but she said that she was like, oh my God. And I just was like, I don't know. She didn't say she was reliving trauma hearing you talk. You had a story about the school or something and in your stand-up. And she said that she was like, oh my God, we were both so traumatized by that school.
Oh, interesting. I was not beat at all.
Okay.
If anything,
do you think it went on though?
Oh, absolutely. Because my mom went to that school and she would always talk about how they would hit the students.
Oh, great. And so she sent you there.
Yeah,
cool.
She sent me there because
thanks, Mom.
Yeah, and they didn't even hit me. And I was ready for it.
No, you don't seem like someone who would get hit. Speaking of getting hit, have you guys seen the Vince McMahon documentary?
No.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Okay, I watched the first part of it last night with my parents. I went over there and the first episode is all just about him kind of taking over the WWF from his dad and then expanding and stealing all these territories and making it this cultural phenomenon. And then they did they talk about this one part in the late 80s, I'm guessing, maybe mid 80s, where pro wrestling was all the rage and people were starting to have this kind of discourse of it's fake. Is it real? Is it fake? Which I grew up hearing all the time. That's all you talked about was that you thought any guy who liked pro wrestling was so dumb because it's obviously fake. And it's yeah, duh. It's like a play. What's wrong with that? Like, why couldn't we accept that about it? Like, I don't even understand. But like, why did you guys do such a poor job of describing what it was? You were just like, no, it's real. Like, you should have just been like, yeah, it is, but so is TV that you watch. Like, why did you all not have really a good defense for it?
Well,
you
when
just
you're
were like, it is real.
When
but
you're
you didn't believe it was real, right?
When you're 6 and you're 7, when you're first
believe
getting
it's
into
real.
it, you think it's real. And
Yeah,
then you slowly, when you get into
Is it
like
like
bar mitzvah
Santa?
age, I don't know if it's quite like Santa, but
A little bit, because you are living the lie, and like, but you don't realize it until like somebody older than you points it out. But like, also like when I was 13, I thought it was real because me and my friends would do like backyard wrestling, and like we were really hurting each other.
Right.
So,
that's the thing about it. Yeah, is that it
You
actually
still do
does
get hurt.
And especially
Yeah.
when like the ECW came out, which was another wrestling league that's still around, like they were particularly into like actually hurting each other and making sure that like the moves were vicious and people
And
do
they
get
throw
hurt.
each other into thumbtacks and there'd be glass.
Yeah,
It
they
is an
use
athletic
razor
event.
blades to cut them. Yeah, they're still getting injured, but it's still, like, you know, like there are people that are, you know, that do a role, like, you know, what's his name? Jeremy Strong gets injured emotionally from portraying someone. Like, it's still fake though. Like, I'm not saying it is a play. It is fictional. And like, yes, things can happen where it's like, you know, what's his name? The Andre the Giant, like his body kind of failed him during one match. And so Hulk Hogan ended up winning it, even though it was kind of predetermined that the other guy would win because he couldn't get it back up. And Hulk was trying to tell him like, keep falling into the rope so it can spring you back up, because once he would fall on his back, he like couldn't get up because his body was like starting to crumble. So there's like, I'm sure there's things on the fly that happen that are like, whoa, that's not predetermined, but it's okay that it's fake. But there was this, so anyway, in the mid 80s, there was this huge backlash of it's fake. And they were kind of covering it up being like, it's not, which is not, I just don't think that was a good defense. So then did you guys remember John Stossel did a report for ABC News or something like that?
Yeah.
And he went under the guise of like saying like, I want to just, you know, interview Hulk Hogan and like kind of cover this phenomenon that is this, you know, Hulkmania. But instead, it started getting around that he was asking about like the fakeness of it, and he was saying like, "I hear you guys cut yourselves with razor blades." I just assumed they used fake blood, but I guess they literally cut themselves with razor blades.
Yeah, there's a place to cut over your eyebrow.
Yeah.
Like I've that like if you do like a little cut, it doesn't leave a mark,
Scar,
and it will gush.
Yeah, it's like when Trump got shot in the ear.
Yeah, got it. Like, okay. But okay, so then John Sossel's backstage interviewing someone, and the guy fucking punches him 2 times. Like, he gives him tinnitus in the ear, like permanent ear damage. He sued the WWF, got a settlement out, you know, we don't know how much he got. And then Richard Belzer also got attacked by Hulk Hogan, who put him in a headlock on the show. And then when he like let him out of the headlock, because he was kind of giving him a hard time, him and Mr. T, and they were like, oh, well, we'll show you. We put him in a headlock, and he fell out of the headlock and slammed his head on the ground of his studio. He had like a talk show.
Real.
And he's bleeding from the back of his head. And he's like, yeah, that's real.
Real.
And but it was so lame that they were like, we're gonna like fuck up these like little nerdy reporters. It was so lame. It was so gross. And that, but I'm not even happy. Like, I haven't gotten to, I'm like, get to the poop. I know Vince McMahon like pooped on women or something. I'm like, let's get to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the first episode is basically very, very pro Vince McMahon. Like,
yeah, you're like kind of like, this guy rules. He really knew what he was doing. He redefined. He kind of went out and conquered the United States in terms of wrestling. He was like, his dad never really loved him, didn't really believe in him. Kind of sold him the company under the guise of like, he'll never actually own this company. He set him up to fail. He actually succeeded. He's like kind of you're like rooting for him, and then he's gonna poop on women or something.
yeah.
I'm sicko. Like, when are we going to poop on women? But even though I don't want that to happen, like, do you guys get like that on these documentaries? Like, get to the sick shit.
It's coming. They had to set up, like, he's not rich yet. Like, rich.
Got it.
So like,
Okay,
once he gets
that's
rich,
when he becomes
that's when the depravity shows up. Yeah.
But is it always there? Like, I'm looking for it in his eyes as like a young boy where he's trying to like earn his dad's respect. Like, I'm trying to see like the psychopathic tendencies, and I don't really see it. And then they cut to like an interview with him now, and you're like, oh, it's there. Like, what does becoming a billionaire like corrupt people in this way that isn't there before?
I think like the power and control that you start to feel is just like, it has to feel like you're kind of godlike, where no one could like touch you.
Mhm.
But I wonder, is in the first episode, because I watched the whole thing, the part where he's talking about like his abusive stepdad.
No.
Okay, so
All right.
I think it's always been there. Because there's like a line he says about his abusive stepdad going like, it's a shame he died because I would have enjoyed killing him. That like is like so insane that you're like, this guy has
Poor
always been this
kid.
way.
Yeah. That kind of vengeance and being beat in that way just like knocks. If you're never taught empathy or shown any kindness, you just like don't have a chance. I was watching like a fucking Instagram reel the other day, which is, I shouldn't even say that. Like, if I have any information, it's from a fucking Instagram reel. But it really does not even need to be said anymore. So I was living, and so I came across this video of like these inmates that were doing some kind of like therapy session one day at the thing, and they all stood in a circle in the yard, and then like in the middle was this therapist being like, step forward if you were raised by one parent. And then they like all step forward. Step forward if you, witnessed animal abuse in your life. Step forward if you witnessed abuse. And it's just like all of them. And it's like, they pretty much were like, these people didn't have a fucking chance. Like they never were shown even an ounce of love or compassion or even an example of it in any part of their life. Can you really blame them that they ended up here? And it was so sweet because there was this one guy that was like, this was the literal best day of my entire life. And it was like the first time he had ever like talked about his feelings. And he's like sitting in this prison. He's like an old man withering away. And it's the best day of his life that like a compassionate woman came in and like asked him how he's feeling or like how he was raised. It's like, it's so fucked. Poor people.
Yeah.
We're so lucky if like we had even anyone care about us at all ever once, because some people don't have it literally ever.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Yeah, no, it's
Like,
sad. That's where I
Our
mean,
heading.
nature and nurture is definitely nurture is important. So is nature, but like I think you can overcome a lot of nature problems with nurture. And there are people. It doesn't even have to be like an abusive parent. It can be like so little too that sets you down that path and makes you lose that ability to empathize and be, a member of society.
Yeah.
It never even, I guess this is not very empathetic of me, but it never crossed my mind that people are actually going through their life without that, especially because I've dedicated my entire life to seeking out the approval and love of others.
Yes.
So it's like so baffling to me that somebody could make it that far and be like, no one's ever asked me how I'm doing.
No, whenever I see like someone in public blaring their phone and listening to it full volume, I mean, there's a part of me that I think the first part of me is just like, what a fucking asshole. How could you even be that kind of person that has no regard for anyone around you? And we all want to hear this sermon or whatever you're listening to at full volume, and not even good speakers. Like your phone fell in some water and it sounds tinny and you're blasting it in this common area. And then I realized, oh my God, this person never had a parent look out for them in terms of their like hearing. They probably were blaring the TV and screaming while that kid was sleeping. That person has no example in their life of someone being like, hey, let me like respect you. And so why would they show it to anyone else?
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what it's about. Like I have to remember that more times than when I get like upset about how someone's acting or like, and just the idea that, like, the idea that anyone thinks anyone like wants to be homeless, because there's this whole argument now about homeless people. It's like they don't even want help. You try to give them help and you have to want it, and they want to be on the streets. It's like no one really wants to be on the streets. They're there and they've been like hurt by the system, and so they don't have an option. But like no, they didn't actually start just like they don't love like camping so much that they were just like, oh, I want to end up here. People don't choose to do drugs and become drug addicts. Like they're predisposed to do it, and you would too if you had their whole life. But people just seem to think I would never do that if it
I think
were
they
me.
love camping. I think that they went to REI, they spent too much money, and they were like, well, I guess we have to use all this stuff.
Yeah, it's just, but I have to be reminded of it all the time because I constantly am getting mad at my fellow man and being like, how could you do that or think like that? But it's like, okay, if I was them, I'd think like that too. But
no,
thank God I'm not.
Yeah, I'm so thankful that I guess my parents were the people who were like, never do heroin, or like the DARE program did not work. The DARE program made drugs seem so fucking cool. Like,
Oh, yeah.
like I'll never
It kind of
forget.
scared me.
Did it scare you? Oh, they played Pressure by Billy Joel, and they're like, this is what cocaine feels like. And I was like,
Oh my
this
God.
song is incredible. I can't wait to do cocaine.
Oh my God. No, I think I just wanted to be good though. Did you not want to be good? Like, and not get in trouble? That's what scared me of drugs.
I think there was definitely a shift where I started wanting to get into trouble a little bit.
Because you're such a good boy. Like, you follow all the rules. Like, as someone who's worked with you, you like are like have the assignment in right on time. You're just like aim to please, and like in not a way that you're like scared and like, oh, whatever you want, but like you seem to like to be good. Or do
I
the
do
right
like
thing.
being good.
Did that come later for you, or
that
was
came way later? Yeah, like
interesting?
I liked poking buttons, and I liked I really hated.
Oh, I've seen that
authority.
side of you as well. By the way, I've seen you. That's when did I see that come out of you, where you were kind of being a little rabble rouser, and I don't even know what that. But I was like, oh, Sean, there's like some time where you were kind of like being a little bit where there's just someone that like I could tell was annoying you, and you're like, I'm gonna let him have it, and I really enjoyed it. But
they needed to really break me down.
Yeah. I can do it sometimes too. I'll give an example when we get back right after this. So this past week, there was a circumstance where I was getting ready for something, and a producer was talking to me about a thing I was going to do. And it was someone that I had spoken with on the phone. We had a really good conversation, but then I met them in person. They were kind of like talking to me about what I was about to do. And they said that I couldn't mention this part of myself, that there's nothing wrong with mentioning it, but it's like a conflict of interest within the thing I was going to be on. Like, let's say I was going to be in an ad for Sephora. It would have been like mentioning like one time I shopped at Ulta, or I was in an ad for Walmart. And I was like, part of it was like, let's say like my grandfather started Target. Like, I wasn't allowed to say anything about my grandfather. And it's like, but that's who I am. Do you know what I mean? This isn't really tracking, but it's like literally a part of who I am. I couldn't mention because of a conflict of interest within this other thing. And I understood it was like way above his pay grade where this kind of was coming down, this mandate. But I was annoyed because it wasn't told to me before, and I didn't really know who I knew where it was coming from, but it was just kind of getting to me too late. And I was like in the makeup chair, and I just said to this really nice guy, I go, this would have been nice to know that I can't say this part of myself beforehand, because I never would do this if I knew that I couldn't say this.
Slam.
And I go, and he was just like, good to know. And I was like, so just next time, like, I just need to like that. I just know I wouldn't be here right now if I would have known this ahead of time. And I wasn't trying to be an asshole. It was just true. Like, it was
really
just
wanted
like,
to talk about Target.
I really did. My grandfather, Earl Target, I felt was an important part of my origin story. Anyway, so I said that. And then I instantly was like, oh, that might be kind of bitchy. And I don't want this guy to, I don't want this guy to feel like I'm mad at him. I go, listen, I know this is not your decision. You're just the person, you're just the messenger. I'm not mad at you. I'm just letting you know, like, that I'm kind of pissed off. And then then we like joked about something else, and everything was fine. And then my makeup artist, after he left, was like, that was so badass. Like,
Whoa.
You stood up for yourself. You let him know, like, exactly, like, I wouldn't fucking be here right now. I didn't say fucking, but she was like, you let him know you wouldn't be here. And that was so cool. And then you like totally like made him feel comfortable again by like joking and smiling and laughing about something to let him know that like it was okay. And I really appreciated that she noticed that, because it wasn't insincere that I was like trying to make him feel better. I wasn't like, and I love your shirt, like just giving him some kind of flimsy compliment to like soothe him. I really did feel bad. Like, this, it's not this guy's fault. He's just doing his job. And I wanted to reestablish, like, we're still cool, man. Like, we're still joking. It's still fine. Cause I feel like I can be both. Like, I want to be able to let people know exactly how I feel, but I also want to be able to just instantly go back to being friends. Like, I think sometimes people misconstrue when I like am like, hey, we're not doing that, and I don't want to do that again. Don't bring it up. And they're like, oh my God, Nikki's mad at me. I'll never recover from this. She's gonna fire me. This is all bad. And but to me, I'm just like, oh, I'm just saying like what I feel in the moment, and it's not gonna negatively impact the rest of our lives. It's just like a thing I needed to know. Right. It's like, hey, by the way, we're not doing that. And I never want to make a joke like that or like whatever I'm saying. And then I feel like, I forget sometimes that like it's other people aren't inside my brain and don't know that like I'm fine. So I feel like I, for once in my life, did a good job of kind of like reestablishing that we're okay, like without having to say it. And he walked away feeling okay.
I think that's interesting because I think it's funny that you put it back on yourself because I do think when you do that, I think everyone is kind of not used to pure honesty. Yeah. Like, especially in Hollywood where everyone is like double speaking and like really
all
not telling you how they feel, all positive, which by the way is exactly how this person got into the situation is they knew that you couldn't do that, but they had to wait to the last moment because they're like,
by the way, you can't tell any jokes.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No jokes.
And
so, super serious.
It's just being direct. And I think that a lot of times being direct is misconstrued for being mean.
Yeah.
And
well, you're setting boundaries.
Giving a boundary and saying, I don't like when you do that or I don't like when that's happening. It doesn't mean I hate you. And I think we are all, a lot of people, including myself, I'm trying to consider what I'd be like on the other side of this. But like when someone gives me a boundary of like, hey, I really don't like when you do that. Like I can take that and make a fucking meal of it and be like, well, then I'm the worst person in the world. And if that one part of me is bad, then I must be the worst all over. And I do that all the time. So, I should have more empathy about it, but I just feel like, a lot of times it's gotten back to me later on of like, I thought you hated me because you said that one thing. And I'm like, oh, I just was like, I don't want that brand of water anymore or whatever.
Unfortunately, I think that's like the stigmata that women have to carry, that when you're direct and you ask for something, you're kind of labeled as like either emotional or a bitch. So I think it's harder for women to do that. Whereas with men, it's kind of like, oh, wow, look, he's taking the leadership role. He's
assertive.
The line in the sand. Right. But one of the qualities that many qualities that I admire about Nikki, and I know that like you don't like to be set on this pedestal as like, advancing the women's agenda. But like you're so good about setting these boundaries in like a very assertive but neutral way. And you're also really good at asking for what you want, which I think it's so challenging for women to do it because we are more inclined to be like emotional. So we just overthink it. But you don't have that, which is really an admirable quality.
It's me saying no one drinks at this table. You don't need to tell us the drink menu. Like it's instead of just like sitting there and listening to it to be polite or like,
yes,
when the waiter, like I find my friends, like when the waiter is like, do we have any dietary restrictions? Like Kirsten, if you're listening, like, hey, so I have a mango. If there's mango in anything, it's just like, I can't have mango. Like if literally anything in mango, I'm gonna die. So just no mango. Like it's not mad at him. Yeah. It's just like we don't need to be like, I'm sorry, like mango.
Right.
But like she's being nice. She's a nice person, and so like I get that goes, and I can be thought of as rather harsh sometimes.
Sure. The song and dance is getting harder and harder. I feel like as I get older.
You're like this too, Brian. Like you're really direct and like you can come off as rude when you're just saying exactly how you feel. Yeah. And I was saying this to you. I think Sean and I were talking about you behind your back the other day, and I don't know if it was behind your back, but we were like, I was being comical when I said that, but and I don't know if it was behind your back. We could have been facing you. We were just in a different like. No,
I heard it all.
Country.
I heard it.
We were in Canada. We could have been facing the same way, but I don't. Based on latitude and longitude, I don't know if we were literally behind your back, but we were talking about how like you will never lie, and like we even talked about that the other day on the podcast of like you were like, I would just tell them the truth, or I would want to know because I'm like, why would you lie to me? And I'm like, Brian doesn't lie. He's just like always gonna shoot you straight. Like I never question where I stand with Brian. I'm never like, is he mad at me about something? But I think that you probably encounter that a lot where people like think you're mad or something, and you're like, what? Like, has that happened to you a lot?
Well, when I had to like learn how to turn this down because I remember when I was like in my 20s or maybe even a little younger, I would jokingly, as a joke, I'd pretend to be angry or upset about something.
Oh yeah, I've seen that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just always backfires where it's like, oh my God, and then it becomes a big thing. And because it's exactly what you were saying, where it's like, in my head, I know that I'm all cool and everything's fine.
Yeah.
But to them, they just see some guy yelling.
Yeah.
And that's not good. So there was a moment in time, I think I've talked about it before in history, where I realized, oh my God, I got to stop doing this. And it was during an improv warm up or whatever. I was at an improv theater, and there were these two people who I know who are on my improv team who were talking, and I was just walking towards them. And as a joke, I thought, I was like, "Get out of my way!" And I went right through the middle of them.
No contact.
And it just kept going. It would be funny. Like, imagine if I actually did that.
Yeah.
I actually did just do that.
No, yeah, you did actually do it, and there are people that would actually do that, and you might be one of them.
Oh no!
Yeah.
So I had to okay, I got to be like, and I'm just kidding after I do it, maybe. But I
No, we
learned
were
the
talking
phrase,
about how
"I'm
sometimes you like in a writer's room, like if something's not funny, you'll just say something like, you'll be like, yeah, we could do that, or we could do something that's funny. Like, something like that.
Yeah.
And you're not trying to even be like, sometimes I think you're trying to be comical the way you're like presenting that and trying to just kind of like, just bust balls a little bit. But sometimes you will literally say that, like, you're not even insulting, because everyone's allowed to not be funny sometimes. Like in your world, I'm imagining like you're not funny sometimes, or like you've presented something that isn't good. So you don't feel bad calling it out in someone else. Whereas everyone else is like, we all have to like just fake laugh at everything everyone says and go, yeah, maybe that would work, but not
We're all
right
just
now.
trying
And
to
it's
make
like, why
the
are we
project
doing
as good as possible?
So a quick no,
not tied
a quick
to your identity.
yes, exactly is totally. It's not tied to your identity, and I think that's what I've learned in writers' rooms, because I've never been on the other side of it as a writer, and so I've never felt the rejection that I think I would feel if someone was like, no, not that one. Like, oh God, like. It would, but you guys have kind of grown like a callus to that, because I know, Sean, you're very sensitive to that, more so than I think even Brian would be, about like having a joke or an idea rejected, and now you have an immunity to it at this point.
There's definitely an immunity, but I also know, like, I could, for some reason, the only place I'm empathetic is like in a writer's room, and I know exactly how people are feeling at all times.
Yeah,
and like that's why I really enjoy teaming up with Brian, because I feel like he has a paternal energy and I have a maternal energy. And
yes.
Especially the Globes room, I was like looking around being like, all right, I know who's feeling a little insecure, so I know who I could like compliment, so they'll do a better job.
Yes. It's, you gotta, I do want to like take care of people's feelings all the time. And I feel like I am aware of like, if someone's, uncomfortable or whatever, but I definitely have those blind spots, because I'm definitely someone that people have told me is like I'm just harsh, and I'll just tell you exactly how I feel, or if I don't like something. But what I notice I do that I really want to like stop doing is when I'm having an insecurity, like finding a way to blame someone else for it. I think it's like I get it from my dad, of like, if my hair looks shitty, like I'm just like, well, like I'll blame whoever did my hair last or something, or like I won't think about my diet, which is not like good for my hair, or like whatever it is, like, or I'll be like, well, if I'm not getting enough sleep, my publicists aren't looking out for me, and they're not looking at my schedule, and Chris isn't like, I have to find someone else to blame, when really it's just like, just let it be, instead of trying to like. When I'm underslept, it just becomes like a blame game, and I really hate that so much.
It's so hard not to blame others, like, especially because sometimes it is other people's fault. Like, occasionally I'm like, I really half-assed this, and I know that, so I'm like, I could be hard on myself for that. But most of the time I'm like totally willing to be like, no, I could really get to the bottom of this and tell you exactly whose fault this was.
Wow.
And it wasn't mine.
I'm the exact opposite. I blame myself exclusively.
Well,
I could have done better. I should have worked harder. I should have figured out that this person was going to do this, and I should have been able to.
What if you? So I took someone's advice once, and I it's something that I deeply regret that I did, like in a performance that I had, and I took some advice, and like I didn't even question it. I was just like, the person was so sure of it that I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that, and then I did it, and I look back and I'm like, oh, that's the one thing I like. Why did I do it that way? But it was like the person that was giving me the advice was just so confident and so like. like just sure of it that I took it, and I wanted to blame them so much of like that person like sabotaged my performance, but it's like, but bitch, you listened. So like
Right.
I had to then go, it is not that person's fault whatsoever. That person actually did believe, they were confident. So I can't be mad at them for being confident. And I have to be better about knowing my gut and what works
Oh,
instead of
you gotta
just
trust the gut.
even like with my house, I'm like, I'm starting to have like a little bit of like cold feet of like, do I really want
Buyer's
this? And I'm like,
remorse.
well, my mom really liked it, and then Chris's mom really liked it. And now I'm like feeling like now I am like I don't even know if I like it or if I'm just liking it because of them. And it's like, well, that's still your fault, bitch. Like you still need to. You can't blame
It's
other
the-
people's influence.
It's the I'm not going to name names, but it's the Golden Globes host prior to you's problem, which is like you're blaming your writers, but ultimately you chose to tell
Yeah.
those jokes.
Yep. And I get there almost right away now, like where I'm like,
Yeah.
I have a knee jerk response of like, oh fuck, that's their fault. And I'm like, no, it's like, okay, great. Now this is a lesson that like the next time someone is emphatic, I have that feeling of like, whoa, I thought the other thing, but man, this person's really confident about this. Just
Yeah.
give it talk to one more person about it. One more, like, don't just like blindly trust. And now I'll be more perceptive of that. It's just like these lessons just keep coming in. Like it'll never end.
You're right. I mean, I succumb to this all the time. Like, confidence is the most assuring thing in the entire world. If somebody
God.
is confident with me, I'm like, well, they have all of life's answers. I should.
Yep.
I should absolutely get in the back of their van.
Yep.
Like-
Yep. Like
I
I
do
was
wanna
talking to my
say-
mom. Oh, sorry.
The key to I think you do this too. So the key to being blunt successfully and saying like something's bad, something's good, is to also be free and open with your compliments. Like if you think
Yes.
something, like sometimes people are just negative all the time, but if you think something's good, you also have to be blunt about that.
Yes.
And that's how
be
that
consistent.
evens out.
Yeah.
Then you're just a good judge of things as opposed to just being a negative piece of shit.
Judgmental.
That's
That's
beautiful.
really good.
Brian.
I love that.
Like-
Yeah. You can be blunt either way.
Yeah.
And just just don't hold back anything.
Like there were times during the Globes where I was like, not effusive about a joke, but then there were other times where I was like, I think this might be the best joke that was ever written.
Yes. And we would often tell people if that person was like in the bathroom while you said that about them, we would be like, when you were gone, Brian said this was the best joke ever written. And everyone's like, wow.
Yeah,
It was so exciting to relay that because,
There was one joke that I did say that, but do I remember what it was? We didn't wind up using it.
oh, it was someone who was sitting to the left of me. Who was sitting? It was Sean. Maybe it was who was sitting to the left. No, it wasn't John Max. It was I forget. I don't think we ended up using it, but it was something. Well, there was one moment that like I think was like one of the funniest moments was when I think we'd already talked about it, but it's funny to repeat again when we were trying to get the word still out of we had said still too many times in one joke. Like we had started off where it's still time to say this and we needed to stay still again, but you don't want to say the still twice in one joke. So we were like, how do we get that still out? Like we got to take it out. And we were like struggling. And it's like, but I think we need it. And I think it was Noah Garfinkel,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it
he
was.
goes, look, if we really need it, we can just put it in another joke. Like it was about the whole act itself. Like, wait, this still just needs to be somewhere in there. That was so fucking funny.
Okay, I'm remembering a little bit. I don't remember the joke, but it was a Jess Dweck joke.
Okay.
And it was, I think it was about Wicked, and I don't remember the joke, but I remember that was the best joke ever written.
Oh
And-
yes, where we
yeah.
were certain that we had cracked the case. Because,
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Wicked was the bane of December for
Because we said that we were going to give out a trophy to whoever cracked the Wicked joke.
And
Whoever
we didn't even. Okay, I guess what cracked it was my. It was Wicked was amazing. I loved it. My boyfriend loved it. My boyfriend's boyfriend really loved it. That was our Wicked like crescendo? I think.
Yeah.
I think Conan cracked it in the Oscars. I really liked his Wicked joke.
What was his Wicked joke?
His Wicked joke was, you know how we all love the Wizard of Oz? What if we took all of the supporting characters that we didn't even care about and find a
And made
story
them
where
go
they're
to
going
wizard
to
school?
college? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're like Yeah, that's pretty good. There was it was fun to watch the monologue and see like, oh, we were really close to that joke, but we didn't quite get it. Or like, oh, we did do that joke, but we didn't keep it. Or like,
there was one in particular that was like, oh man, we came up with that joke and we didn't use it. And then Conan had used it.
I felt that at least 3 or 4 times in the monologue where we had tried out that joke and like we cut it and then
for whatever
I'm
reason.
Like, yeah, like because just through testing we like the
Sean?
Yeah, or it wasn't like because a lot of jokes just didn't work because of the rest of it. Like that's not to say that if Conan did a joke that we decided not to do or some version of it, it's like it wasn't a good joke. It like didn't fit with the rest of the tone of whatever.
Yeah.
One of them was we seriously discussed for a long time the possibility of doing a sandworm costume that appears in the audience.
Oh,
and
really?
Conan did it. Yeah. No, we talked about it for a long time. I remember because I was in the park.
It came up like maybe 5 times.
They
like,
killed it with that. That was so fun, so silly. Yeah, I went to my parents' house last night again. I didn't spend the night, but I went to go hang out with them again. And yeah, I was talking about what it was I just about to say.
Did Julie show you her new spear?
Yeah, they did show me they found Indian artifact, Native American artifacts. Do we say Indian anymore?
Depends on what you're talking about.
Well, I've heard Indian casino a ton, and I'm like, that doesn't sound appropriate to me.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think in the commercials for Indian casinos, they still say Indian casinos.
They do. I just
They
saw
do.
advertisements all over the place. In this DFW, I was walking around and said Indian casino is and I was like, is that okay?
I'm
Native
sure there
American
are some
casino is too verbose. Like,
Yeah, I
not
guess.
good for ads. I'm sure there are some Indians who don't mind Indians, and I'm sure there are some Native Americans who don't mind Native Americans. And I think it's up to the individual to decide what they want to be called.
Well, my parents found Native American spears. They love looking for arrowheads. That is a big part of their relationship, and just my dad loves Native American culture and reading about. He knows everything about that, and so they're always like looking at riverbanks and for hours. And they found 2 the other day, and I asked my mom picked me up from the airport, and she was like, "Your dad and I found 2 arrowheads," and I go, "Is yours better than his?" And she goes, "You know it." And I go,
Wait, they really found arrowheads like recently?
yeah, they find them all the time. Like it's crazy.
How?
Yeah, my dad
Like,
has hundreds. Nikki, don't say that. People are going to try to steal them. They're worth literally nothing. Please don't go steal my parents' Missouri Indian artifacts. Okay?
They need a safe deposit box.
Exactly. That's where they are. So you can't even find them in their house. Please.
Wait, so they find these on like this in the side of a river?
Yeah, like on
They're
riverbanks.
just there?
They're like,
Isn't that like
yeah,
incredibly hard and difficult to find an arrowhead?
I think
feel like-
they're not in my family, and they follow a guy online who like finds them every day, like multiple ones every day. They're like all over the place. Like they were, before we got to this land, I think they were around for hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of years.
Of
I don't
days?
really know anything. And they were cutting things all the time, and that's how
Yeah.
they ate. So there's like
Wait,
thousands.
they
and
lived here
thousands.
before us?
Hate to tell you, allegedly.
Oh.
Yeah, I think they were put there with the dinosaur bones.
Right,
Yeah.
to confuse us. That's a good point. But yeah, I'm impressed by it too. It's like it's insane. But my sister and my brother-in-law find them all the time because they're
Wow.
out in nature. And yeah, whenever we were kids, whenever there would be like a field we were driving past that would be freshly tilled, we would have to like pull over and they would go like look and it's fun because like an Easter egg hunt when you find one, you just like are so excited and yeah, it's a really cool thing. Actually, during
thing
your
to do.
wedding, Brian, when I was in wherever that was, Colorado, what was the town called?
Grand Lake.
Grand Lake, Colorado. There was a shop that had a bunch of fake arrowheads, and I bought a
Damn.
handful of them to trick my parents and like sprinkle about on it, like whenever I would go out to their cabin. And I haven't been out. And Chris thought that was the most diabolical thing he had ever heard of. He was like, "Nikki, you cannot do that to your parents." And I'm like, "It's a joke, like, and it'll make them happy. I'll never even tell them they're not real. Like, they don't get them checked, like they won't know, and it'll just make them
Right.
happy. I think it's actually a nice thing to do. But if they hear this podcast, then I guess
Yeah,
they'll
like
know.
there was
But
a
I haven't done it
commercial
yet.
where I forgot what it was for. It was like for Duracell batteries or something, where one of the daughters was really into dinosaurs.
Yeah.
This parent's daughter was into dinosaurs, so she got a bunch of fake bones and buried them in the backyard so that she could find the bones. And then she found the bones. And
No.
I find that to be diabolical.
I think it's diabolical. I think it is. I recently did something like that to my nephew, and I feel really, really bad. Well, I'll tell you that when we go back from break. I already told this story in the podcast, but we made it seem like my nephew broke a world record for sitting on a ball on a bench.
So what happened? Wait, was there a fallout?
Yeah, he like bragged about it at school, and then one of his schoolmates said that he had sat longer on a ball than my nephew did, which was I think he did an hour and 3 minutes, and someone at his school did an hour and 5 minutes or something and didn't get a record, so didn't get a certificate. And so he was like, I know it's fake. And so I felt so bad because I'm like, oh my God, I made my nephew look stupid at school. Like I didn't even think of the fallout from that. And I should have, because I am like, I'm so upset still about my parents not telling me that Santa wasn't real until so late, because it made me look so dumb for so long. But you know, you make mistakes. I learned. I won't do that to him again. But it was
here's
fun.
how you make up for it. You got to find the other kids that told him he was a liar
and get him
and
a
you got to
certificate.
trick them. No, you got to trick. Yeah, you can either give them a certificate or you can tell them something wrong about like the Grand Canyon or something, so that they have some stupid thing rattling around their head.
Show up at the. I would say show up at the school, find that kid, and be like, "Hey, listen, I'm this boy's aunt. Santa isn't real."
Shatter it.
Yeah, destroy him.
He just can be like, my aunt is famous, and that will be a currency for the rest of his life that I actually do think about as a gift giving to my niece and nephews. I do think that is a gift. I don't care. I don't look at it like, wow, I'm famous. I don't walk around like that. But I know that if I were a kid, final thought, I know if I were a kid, I would have killed for a famous aunt or uncle. I mean, I remember one time my TV Bob, my Uncle TV was on TV one time for a segment for being a mailman, and I talked about that endlessly. I was like, my uncle was on TV. So I'm like, I do think there's part of the reason I like success is so that people in my life can brag about it. So whenever someone is like, I didn't tell them I know you, I'm always like, please, that is the only reason I do this. Isn't that's like a cool thing to give your friends and family? I'm not kidding you. Like, I don't do it for myself. I do it for them.
I tell people that Nikki Glaser is my aunt all the time.
Do it, Brian. Do it. We have a really weird family where, I love it.
That should be every child's dream. Like, when I was 10 at basketball camp, I told everyone I was Chris Farley's cousin.
Great, and yes.
I'm not. But like,
well, Sean, even you, sometimes I'm like, no one, like I'll be on the road with you or something, and people will be like, how should I introduce you? And you're like, just say Comedy Central, and just like he's a guy. And I'm like, how about you were like Norm Macdonald's best friend and opener, and and you were, having a Norm Macdonald next to your name and like having the approval of Norm Macdonald is like the best achievement in comedy, like of any comedian, and like instantly gives you this like status
gravitas
within our community, even with fans of comedy. And that's always surprising to me that you like kind of hold back on that.
Oh, I'm just like, I'm just so embarrassed to give credits. Like, I really wish I could still do clubs and colleges all over. But
we'll still let you have that. But like, what is that in you that like finally reached that level where like, you know, if someone would have asked you what your dream job would have been when you first got in this business, it would have been like being buddies with Norm Macdonald, like writing for him, writing with him, being on the road with him, and then you achieve it and you don't want to talk about it.
I know.
Like, what is that?
I don't know. You know what? This is actually a great thing that I should probably bring up in therapy, because like it really was like my dream.
It's anyone's dream in this
maybe
business.
It's like low self-esteem. Like you don't believe that you deserve that type of accolade.
I think that's it too, because you also didn't we just talk about this? Don't you feel like you tricked Norm in some way, and that he actually, even though he did tell you were hilarious, you still think you like somehow tricked Norm?
Yeah, I thought I tricked him or he was fucking with me, and I'm constantly going between the two.
God, it's like, even once you get it, you can't even, it will never, like we were talking about this, it will never land. The other night we were talking about with Emily Catalano, we were on the road in Canada backstage, and we were talking about, is there any compliment that would ever land for you where you wouldn't kind of go like that, where you wouldn't try to weasel the compliment away or kind of excuse it? And I went through every compliment I could ever get from anyone, and I just couldn't really let any of them in. There was always some kind of excuse I could make of like they're being nice, or they've only seen this work that I've done, and that thing was actually really good, but like the rest of the work I've done was like crap. And if they really saw that, who did I just see that was talking this way? And I was like, oh, it was this morning. Do I have to say where I saw it? No, I don't. Okay, so this morning my eyes were open, so you know where they were looking, and I saw a thing about it was Billie Eilish singing beautifully. It's like her and Phineas in their bedroom that they share, I'm guessing, and they were recording. And she's on the bed. She's on their bed. He's at the desk, and they're recording. And she does some like amazing whisper, falsetto, beautiful like, you know, run, and she's singing. And then he goes, "All right, that was good." And he like stops the tape, and she was like, "That was disgusting and horrible." And it sounded literally perfect, right? Like Billie Eilish perfection. And she was like, "Ugh." She was like, I'm so bad." And he was like, "No, it wasn't. That was great." And he's like used to this. You can tell he's like used to this at this point. And she's like, "I cannot believe we have to have this album done a day before my birthday." He goes, "No, we have to have it mastered a day before your birthday. It'll be done weeks before then." And she was like, "Well, it's not going to be, because I'm crap, and I always have been crap, and I'm horrible, and I'm terrible, and I'm the worst singer." And it's just like, I sent it to Chris because I was like, "Oh my God, this is, you are Phineas. I am Billy." Like, we only have sex like once a month. When we're in the creative process, when there's not like a lot of romance going on. No. So I was like, that's so us. Like, it felt really good to see that kind of, it feels really good to see that kind of doubt in someone that is inarguably just insanely talented and almost seems to be naturally talented, doesn't even have to try, even though I think there's definitely a lot of effort behind it in a good way. Like, she's trained, you know? But it was so good to hear her say, like, literally, she's dog shit. She was like, "I'm horrible." And she believes it. I mean, she really believes it in a way that I'm like, that's the way I feel about myself when I'm trying to convince someone who's like, "No, you're good." Like, I felt so hard the exact same way she felt, and it felt so good to see someone that I know is inarguably the best feel that way. It's like, that really made my day to see that Billie Eilish is insecure. Because of course she is.
Yes, why wouldn't you? Like, everyone should be insecure. Like,
Everyone
I feel like
should be.
Insecurity is, I honestly, feeling secure is just so foreign to me. I love being insecure. I embrace it, and also it helps me push through.
Yes.
Then I try harder. It's like,
Yes.
Yeah, that's the key. Like, insecurity is one way in order for you to become great. Is you constantly, it manifests in different ways for different people, but I think like you need to constantly be saying you're bad in order to actually propel yourself to greatness. I'm sure Michael Jordan was like, "I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough," over and over again. Kobe was probably like that in order to become the greatest.
But also,
of all time.
he didn't. I think it's harmful at some point to be like that self-loathing. I think there's some happy medium, like where you. I wanted to share this quick thing about, like, let's talk about famous people. I said it yesterday where I've learned about some famous person that actually, like, there was a story that really disappointed me. So this weekend at the hotel for the Oscars, Emily was running down to go get something urgently, and she had to jump in this elevator that was kind of full because the elevators were kind of all fucked up, you know? She jumped in this elevator, and she like immediately felt the vibe in there was like, "What are you doing in here?" And she got on the elevator, and instantly she's standing next to a very famous person, and that person who we all thought was like cool, I would have been like, "Oh my God, I can't wait to be friends with this person." That person gave her like a really dirty look. And Emily, by the way, is like, she's never like, "That person's a bitch." She's always like understanding of like, no, they're a famous person, they should be that way. But she was like, this was so disappointing. And then that person like kind of gave her a look like, "What are you doing on this elevator?" Even though it's a public fucking elevator. That person's like handler or whatever was like, are you staying in this hotel?" to Emily. And she goes, "No, my client is." And she goes, "Do you really need to be in here right now?" And like almost asked her to get out on the next floor. Emily stayed the whole time. And so she said it was like, there was another example of like, there's a person that like Emily once encountered in an elevator who like it was the vibe at this event where you do not ride the elevator with this person. Like if they're in the elevator, you do not ride with them. Like they are to ride alone, which is like standard. And she accidentally got on this elevator like in a rush because she was in a rush and she like slid in and then she got in and realized, oh, I'm in the elevator with the person. And it was like, and you're just not supposed to. So she was like, it was giving that energy, even though that person like deserved to have their own elevator. Like it wasn't like a bad thing. It was just kind of like the vibe of, it was like the rule, you know, because that person needed to be wherever they need to be. This person, however, didn't need to have this vibe. And it instantly ruined them for me. You'll never know who it is because I'm not going to divulge enough. And I just know though that I went from like loving this person, always watching everything they do on my feed. And I went to like almost to the lengths. I'm almost at the point where because I got served them so much yesterday. And I'm like, I need to mute this person's name. Like, I don't want to see this person ever again because they were rude to my friend. Not cool. Now doesn't surprise me because I'm like looking at all the signs. I'm like, yeah, of course they're rude. And so our new phrase, because then later on we were talking to like my hair and makeup team about this person. We were like talking shit. And then Emily said something that was kind of like ball busty to me. And I was like, I'm going to need you to get out of my elevator. And so that's our new phrase for when someone is like, needs to just stop what they're saying because you're not in the mood for it. You need them to get out of your elevator. So I want to like spread that. I think we can all use that right now of like, hey, I'm going to need you to get out of my elevator right now where you like need to be left alone and you need to ride in peace.
Yeah.
I love it. I can't believe June Squibb was such a cunt.
Yeah, this person, I'm not even going to give them a gender, was just like, it's just so disappointing when someone is like, you think they're going to be cool and they're not. Like, man, I just want to celebrate the people who are cool. And like here, let's end on a high note. I just posted a picture with Jackie Tone, who is on Nobody Wants This, among many other things. She was also in Glow, I believe. But Jackie Tone, TOHN, so funny, so charismatic, so kind. I ran into her at the Elton John party. She like invited me into her People magazine like photo shoot. We did a picture together. And then Lisa Curry, another comedian, after I posted that picture, wrote to me and was like, I love her so much. And I was like, isn't it? And she just got upgraded to a series regular on Nobody Wants This. She was a supporting character before, and then they made her a main character, which is like speaks to her talent. Like they only do that when the person like people want more of them. And she plays like a bitch on the show. Like it's amazing that she's able to build this character. Like she just shines. She's so good. But Lisa Curry wrote to me and was like, she was so nice to me at this one event. She like remembered my name, was so kind. And we were both just like, isn't it great when nice people are successful? And we were both like, yeah, fucking Jackie Tone. Like that's the kind of person you want succeeding. And I would have thought the elevator person was a Jackie Tone. I really would have. So sometimes they trick you, man. Sometimes they trick you.
Just be nice. Everyone should be nice. It's free.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, I would argue that it costs something to be nice. It takes
it does.
effort.
It takes extra effort.
I would so much rather just like ignore everything, and just be like, okay.
Oh my God, it's so easy to be cunty.
When you're in a good mood, it's easy to be nice, but when you're in a bad mood, it's just
Smiling
like, can't I just keep going?
Yeah, people go, oh, smiling takes this many muscles and frowning takes 4 times as many. I'm like, but no one is like walking around like,
yeah, I'm not frowning either. I'm just doing nothing.
Lily Rose Depp on the red carpet. It's like doing nothing takes no muscles. I love that Sean knows that reference. Lily Rose Depp is art. Lily Rose Depp, go Google Lily Rose Depp on red carpets. She makes this face every single time.
Wow.
It's just, it's constant.
And it's art because I've seen like some of the video of her posing on the red carpet. The second she's done posing, she goes into a smile and is like natural again. She is trying to look like cunty on the red carpet. And I used to judge it and be like, why is she making that face? And now I'm like, I fucking love it. I love a choice that is like kind of antagonizing people who are supposed to just, you're always supposed to be cheery and like so effervescent on the red carpet. Fucking cool move. I love it. All right, gotta go. Thank you for listening this week. We'll be back next week. Don't you think we won't? Sean O'Connor, Brian Frangie, thank you. Noah, and thank you for listening so much. We'll be in Hartford, Connecticut this weekend, Portland, Maine, 2 shows. I'll see you then, or maybe I won't, but we'll see you next week on the show. Don't be kid. Bye.